Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben. I am a naturopathic doctor empowering you to heal yourself with whole food plant based nutrition and mind body medicine. And today we are continuing our series covering all of the quote unquote anti nutrients, kind of debunking the mythology around these compounds that are in our whole plant foods. And let's face it, last week we talked about some of the fear mongering that is taking place, especially with regard to lectins. But it doesn't really stop there. People are fear mongering around all these quote unquote plant toxins that are interfering with our health and preventing our bodies from absorbing nutrients in our foods and creating inflammation and all of these other things that are allegedly leading to our demise as humans. So, of course, it doesn't take like a nutritional biochemist or a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon to understand that people who eat more plant foods are healthier. I eat 100% whole plant foods, and I am very healthy. And I am surrounded by people who also eat whole plant foods, and those people are very healthy. And of course, there are all of these anecdotes that we all experience. And then there's the research, which we're going to be talking about. But just looking at the big picture, looking at the meta-analyses and the population studies, we see that people who eat more plant foods are healthier, living longer, healthier lives, free from disease, free from pain, free from suffering. So, how is it that these anti-nutrients are creating such havoc in our bodies? Like, what is going on? What is the theory? What is the reality? Let's talk about it. And today we have another kind of mixed media episode. If you are watching on YouTube or on Facebook, I'm going to be sharing some studies actually, as well as some memes, some little goofy memes. So that's where we're going to start things out with. Here we are. So here's a popular graphic that maybe you've seen. I don't know if you've seen this specific one, but this is a picture showing all these quote unquote phytate rich foods that are high in phytates and affect your ability to absorb essential nutrients. So yeah, you definitely want to avoid these phytates. Oh, by the way, we're going to be really defining what the heck a phytate is and what it isn't. And one thing that has me scratching in my head, which is people are actually avoiding or like fear mongering and worried about eating too many phytates, but then actually taking phytates in a different form is a popular supplement. So what's up with that? This is a funny one. I'm not exactly sure what this is from, what kind of show or movie or whatever, but a picture of this woman saying, "Are you two friends?" And one of the guys is phytates, and he says yes, and the other one is iron, zinc, magnesium, calcium, and he says no. This is kind of a nuanced meme because what this is really referring to is the fact that phytates, the compound of phytic acid or inositol hexaphosphate, which we're going to be talking about, of course, is a chelator, or I don't know if that's the technical term, but it binds to minerals strongly, similarly to oxalates that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And phytates binds to minerals. So on one hand, phytates is a friend of all these minerals, but some people say in our bodies, the phytates keep these minerals bound and prevent our bodies from accessing or absorbing the iron, the zinc, the magnesium, the calcium. So anyways, kind of goofy. Here's a strong statement. A plant-based diet is an anti-nutrient heavy diet. Scary. Okay. So another one, could anti-nutrients in plant foods be harming your health? I don't know. Let's talk about it. And here are some least toxic and most toxic foods. You see that on the most toxic side, we've got seed oils. We're going to talk about seed oils more because they've become very popular. Got to jump on the bandwagon of, hating on seed oils, which we do. We don't advocate for eating seed oils, but seed oils are toxic. So are leafy greens. Yeah, leafy greens are toxic. So are nightshade vegetables. Alliums, which are garlic and onions, I guess they're toxic too. Legumes, that must be the lectins, right? We talked about that last week. The brassicas. Oh, brassicas. Maybe brassicas are toxic because of the goitrogens. We're going to be talking about goitrogens either next week or the week after, thanks to a comment on the YouTube. We got to talk about goitrogens. We also talk about phytoestrogens, all these compounds that people are afraid of in plants. Then also our grains are toxic. Nuts and seeds are toxic, so we want to stay away from this toxic stuff, right? And then here's the least toxic plant foods that this meme is sharing us and telling us to eat. So avocados, berries, squash, honey, olives, cucumbers, but be sure to skin and take the seeds out of your cucumbers. Sweet fruit, okay. Dates, yeah, okay, yeah. So I don't know. This seems just so arbitrary. Like, where is this coming from? And I think it's coming from this compound here. What we're looking at here, if you're looking at the video, is inositol hexaphosphate. This is phytate. And I honestly don't know how inositol hexaphosphate, which is inositol is the compound in the middle of this molecule here, and then we have 6 phosphates, hexaphosphate. So I don't know how that got the phytate. I guess it's kind of inositol hexaphosphate. Phytate is definitely easier to say than inositol hexaphosphate. And then, of course, phytic acid is really, phytate and phytic acid exists in equilibrium based on biochemical terminology and like what the equilibrium point is or whatever. But anyways, you can see here that this compound with inositol hexaphosphate, if you're looking at it, it's got a very strongly negative charge based on all these oxygens in the middle of this in this molecule. So that negative charge has a strong affinity to positive charge, such as minerals, such as metals, such as anything with a positive charge. Actually, also proteins often, or I take that back. Most proteins are negatively charged. But in any event, this phytate compound binds onto minerals and metals, and it does so in plants and seeds. Actually, going back to where this inositol hexaphosphate is predominantly found in nature, it's found in every single seed. And it is in seeds because it is a very potent antioxidant, and it stabilizes all of the nutritional minerals and compounds in seeds. I'm talking about like this broccoli seeds, like acorns, like walnut, like all the seeds that fall from trees and plants. They have this inositol hexaphosphate in them to preserve the nutrition of that seed so that that seed can remain fertile and grow into another plant. So that's really the botanical, agricultural reason for the existence of inositol hexaphosphate or phytate. And it has strong antioxidant properties, which we're going to be talking more about. So that's what it is. And therefore, it is mainly found in our nuts and seeds, as well as grains, because grains are actually the seeds of grasses. That's kind of a fun fact you can take to your next mocktail party and say that and let everyone know what grains are. Grains are seeds of grasses, and that's why corn, which sometimes people think of corn as being a vegetable, but it's actually a seed of a grass. You can put a corn kernel in the ground and grow a stalk of corn. And also, therefore, that's why like quinoa is and amaranth and all of these other that they're sometimes referred to as whole grains, but technically, botanically speaking, they're pseudo grains because they're seeds, but they're not seeds of grasses. Okay, so anyways, that's not really what the point here. The point is that phytates are found in every single seed in a high amount. So that includes our grains, our nuts and seeds, and legumes, because these are all technically, botanically speaking, seeds. So phytates are rich in nuts and seeds. And as I said, I guess I haven't said it yet, but some people, and I titled the episode like, should I soak my nuts and seeds in grains to eliminate the phytate content? because that's what some people, that is an effective way at lowering the phytate content in nuts and seeds and grains, is to simply soak overnight and then rinse the seeds. And then, you can sprout those seeds or dry them back out so that they are quote unquote sprouted. And some people think that that makes them easier to digest because of the decreased phytate content in them. And like I said, one of the main allegations against phytates is their ability to bind onto minerals and therefore block your body's absorption of those minerals. And we're going to be talking about why that might be actually a healthy thing or a positive thing. But in any event, yes, soaking our grains and our nuts and our seeds does decrease phytate content. However, we don't want to do that. That being said, if you have been on a quote unquote low phytate diet or a low fiber diet or low plant diet and your microbiome is just a little bit deficient, some people do benefit from soaking their nuts and seeds just for digestive health, just for a little bit of a little bit less gas or bloating when transitioning to a fiber-rich, more fiber-predominant whole food plant-based diet. But I guess with trying to avoid making things too complicated here, the goal is to be able to healthfully digest and break down without any gas or bloating or excessive digestive symptoms, healthfully break down all of our nuts and our seeds and our whole grains without soaking them. So we can soak them, but maybe long term we should have second thoughts about that. So as I said, phytates are oftentimes taken in the form of a supplement, which is very interesting. So phytates, this really powerful anti-nutrient that is sabotaging your health, you can go and buy on the health food aisle. And again, this is the biochemical term for phytate, inositol hexaphosphate, based on the biochemical molecule, inositol in the middle, and then 6-phosphate ring around the ring there. So yeah, you can take phytate supplement because maybe you eat a low phytate diet and you want your phytates. And why would you take this phytate supplement? Well, as we're going to be talking about, it is one of the strongest antioxidants. It has very strong and very potent anti-cancer effects. It also has very strong effects on regulating our calcium absorption and our mineral status in our body, which can be very helpful and important. Because in the paradigm and context, thinking about like osteoporosis and bone health, so many people just think calcium, 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 got to eat more calcium, got to get more minerals, got to do more of this, got to get more. It's all about balance. It's all about all the trace minerals synergistically working with one another. It's all about proper absorption and utilization of those minerals. So the things that help with the balance, the things that help with the utilization and absorption of those minerals are things like vitamin D, for sure. Vitamin D works hand in hand with calcium, regulating calcium absorption. Vitamin K, also very important. And compounds such as oxalates, as well as inositol hexaphosphate, really help to manage the absorption of calcium in our bodies. So let's crack into some science. Let's look at this first study. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share this stuff with you guys, just because it's pretty powerful. So this first study says that phytate and risk factors for osteoporosis. So phytate and risk factors for osteoporosis. So this is a little review study from 15 years ago, from 2008, but it shows that you see the highlighted last sentence here in the conclusion of the study. Phytate consumption had a protective effect against osteoporosis, suggesting that low phytate consumption should be considered an osteoporosis risk factor. Wow, that's pretty powerful. That's a pretty powerful conclusion. The researchers go so far as to say that not eating enough phytates is a risk factor for osteoporosis. So if phytates block calcium absorption or block mineral absorption, then how is it that low phytate consumption is associated with osteoporosis? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Yeah, it's really very interesting because actually it's not just about getting more of the minerals in our body. It's about the proper balance and the proper level of absorption. So that leads us to this study, which is kind of helps us understand the other side of phytates. So key aspects of myo-inositol hexaphosphate phytate and pathological calcifications. So pathological calcifications, these are things like kidney stones, which we talked about in the context of oxalates. These are things like gallstones. And quite frankly, a lot of calcification can take place at various other parts of the body, various other organs in the body, diminishing the function and vitality of our tissues and cells. So this study concluded that oral or topical administration of phytate in vivo and getting phytates in our body significantly decreases the development of pathological calcifications. And it makes sense as to why, because again, this phytate compound binds onto excess calcium, excess iron, excess stuff in our body that can actually do damage. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing. So inositol hexaphosphate or phytate really helps our body to regulate minerals and metals and such in our bodies. Moving on in the science, because we do have a little bit more to cover. Here we get into some of the cancer research. Protection against cancer by dietary IP6 and inositol. So that's phytate, right? Inositol hexaphosphate. So here's I'm just going to read the last couple sentences of this conclusion here. A striking anti-cancer action of phytate was demonstrated in different experiment models. In addition to reducing cell proliferation, phytate also induces differentiation of malignant cells. Enhanced immunity and antioxidant properties also contribute to tumor cell destruction. Preliminary studies in humans show that phytate and inositol are precursor molecules of inositol hexaphosphate and appear to enhance the anti-cancer effect of conventional chemotherapy, control cancer metastasis, and improve quality of life. Because it is abundantly present in a regular diet, efficiently absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract, and safe, phytate holds great promise in our strategies for cancer prevention and therapy. So this is just kind of showing us some of the mechanisms by which phytate has its potent immune stimulating and anti-cancer benefits. So pretty cool science. And what's the next study here? Let's move right along. Okay, one more cancer study. So this one is looking at leukemia, leukemia cells. Phytate had a dose-dependent cytotoxic effect on all of the evaluated cell lines, and the results confirm that anti-proliferative activity of phytate and suggests that it may have a specific anti-tumor effect also in chronic myeloid leukemia via active gene modulation. So this is really highlighting the antioxidative nature of phytates. And, antioxidants have there's so many uses for antioxidants in our body, but one of the most, widespread kind of broad utility of antioxidants is preserving the health and the function of our DNA. And most people know that mutations in DNA can result in, tumor growth and cancer and all of these sorts of things. And of course, we've got an immune system that's designed to kind of catch those cells and clean up those things and clear those things from our system. But also on the other side of things, on kind of the preventative side of things, the antioxidants help to preserve the structure and integrity of our DNA and prevent mutations and therefore prevent cancer as well. So yes, pretty cool. So that was and then there's a colon cancer study. Colon cancer and nutrition, there's a lot of research around colon cancer and nutrition because that's really the direct interface between our food and our body, right there in the colon, in the gut. So it's very powerful. The benefits that we can observe nutritionally in the prevention and also the treatment of cancer, specifically colon cancer. So here we see again, inositol hexaphosphate or phytic acid has been recognized to have both preventative and therapeutic effects against various cancers, including that of the colon. Inositol hexaphosphate exerts an anti-metastatic activity through modulation of MMP and TIMP gene expression to prevent cancer cell migration and invasion. So MMPs are matrix metalloproteinases. So this is just getting into more of the mechanistics of really how phytates work in the body. And I'm just sharing this with you so that you don't have to be afraid of them, because they work in good ways. They have benefits. So moving on to talk about diabetes for a second. This is some new to me information. I didn't really know the effects that phytates had on diabetes. However, this research is really kind of consistent with just a fiber-rich diet in general, because the thing about nutritional research and studying nutrition is that oftentimes it becomes very reductionistic. And you can just imagine that a diet rich in phytates is also going to be a diet rich in fiber, which is also going to be a diet rich in antioxidants, which is also going to be a diet rich in vitamins and minerals, which is also going to be a diet low in toxicity, which is also going to be a diet that is rich in carbohydrates and clean carbohydrates and that sort of thing, complex carbohydrates. So anyways, all that being said, let's take a look at and see what the specific mechanisms and relationships are between phytates and diabetes. So this study found that phytates may help regulate insulin secretion, modulate serum leptin concentration. That's our satiety hormone, which in turn modulates food intake and associated weight gain. The phytate also attenuates vascular damage because it's an antioxidant, right? That helps to clean up any potential endothelial dysfunction or vascular damage. Also associated with increased fecal lipid output. That's always good, to poop out your fat rather than absorb it. And that's a consequence, again, of fiber content, as far as I know. And liver function is preserved. It's always good to have in good liver function. And serum reactive oxygen species production was reduced. So reactive oxygen species, again, those are controlled by antioxidants. So yes, oxidative stress and diabetes is huge. So it would make sense that phytates and diabetes would be a good mix. And also the fiber that's comes along with phytates. This next one is looking at the why did I include this? Why did I include this? This is looking at how just kind of leading us to understand how our body adapts to increased phytate consumption, which is really most demonstrated and easier to look at in this final study, looking at how our diet shapes the ability of human intestinal microbiota to degrade phytate. So really, I've said it before, it's so cool to think about the relationship that we have with our gut microbes and the relationship that our gut microbes have with the food that we're feeding them. So that's really what this study is highlighting. And again, you can see the conclusion is that a diet rich in phytate increases the potential of intestinal microbiota to degrade phytate. So the more phytate we eat, the more phytate breaking down bacteria we have in our stomach, or not our stomach, in our colon, in our small intestine. So that, again, that helps us to regulate the degree to which we can regulate our mineral absorption, our antioxidant properties, or fiber degradation and whatnot. The cooperation of aerobic and anaerobic bacteria is essential for the complete phytate degradation. Okay, so this is really just, again, showing us how our body adapts to eating more phytates. So that is also helping us understand how if we have been on a low carb diet, a low phytate diet, a carnivore diet, a paleo diet, a keto diet, we've been afraid of carbohydrates, we've been afraid of fiber, we've been afraid of plants. It's okay. We've all been there to some degree. We've all had a little bit of carb fear or fiber fear or phytate fear, or all this anti-nutrient propaganda. It's hard not to just have a little bit of fear around that. I don't, but maybe you do, and that's okay. So say that you have been fearful of these quote unquote anti-nutrients and you have avoided the phytate rich foods like the intact whole grains and the nuts and seeds and like the legumes. So say you have been eating a low carb, low plant diet, and then you're like, oh, you come across this podcast, you come across some cleanse, you come across some protocol or some nutritional guru, and it's just like, I'm going to eat tons of this, I'm going to eat tons of fruit, I'm going to eat tons of whole grains, I'm going to eat tons of legumes, I'm just going to go for it. Well, as this study is suggesting, the one that's talking about the microbiome adaptation to phytates, you probably don't have a lot of those phytate degrading microbes in your gut when you start out. So since you don't have a lot of those phytate degrading microbes in your gut, you might overwhelm the bacteria and lead to a little bit of gas and bloating. I always like to remind people that it's not pathologic. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're broken or flawed in any sort of way. It just takes a little bit of patience as your body adapts and evolves, quite literally, to meet the demands of eating more of the fiber-rich, nutrient-dense whole plant foods that you know are going to be nourishing you. So that's just a word encouraging you to stick with it, because these adaptations and the evolution of our microbiome and our epigenetics and everything that's going on inside of us, it doesn't take place overnight. Even though these changes start very rapidly, everything starts to change immediately, but the end stage, longer term effects might take weeks to months or something like that. But that's okay with you, because you're not in for the short term fix. You're here for the long term solution. All right. I guess I covered everything. I thought I had a lot to cover, so hopefully it wasn't too much. But I appreciate you for being here and for absorbing this information. I thank you for your feedback around getting more about this anti-nutrient conversation, specifically talking about goitrogens and phytoestrogens, which, like I said, will be the topic of the next couple of weeks on the podcast. And if there are any other things that you're like, oh, what about this? What about that? Feel free to shoot them my way. Maybe it's worth a podcast episode. So thanks again for tuning in. If you're looking for more support, more information, more education, you can for sure check out our offerings at Alter Health, www.alter.health. We have one course, our Thrive on Plants course, and actually more courses coming. We've also got a wonderful meal guide membership community. The meal guide membership is just a great way to have healing, whole food, plant-based, phytate rich and fiber rich and phytonutrient rich meals delivered to your inbox, not like your literal inbox, but your email inbox, so that you can take action in your kitchen to heal yourself and create the health that you desire. So that meal guide membership is actually just $11 a month. So what is that, like $3 a week, like $275 a week, and you can get healing meals like Dr. Susanna created healing meals. So that's a great option for people who are looking for a little bit of support. Anyways, that's the end of my ramble here, and I look forward to talking to you more next week about either goitrogens or phytoestrogens. We'll see which I'm most excited to talk about. But thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.